Hey everybody, it is Kelly Hoey, author of Build Your Dream Network, and I am so thrilled you are here today. And I am here today with my pal Missy Godfrey. Hey Missy, how are you?
I'm great, thanks, Kelly. It's great to be here with you. Thank you.
So yeah, if you're watching on YouTube or LinkedIn or Twitter, share a little comment. Let us know you're here. Let us know where you're checking in from. We're going to have lots of fun. I want to talk to Missy about her very varied career. And as I said to her, I have props today. There we go. Woohoo. We're going to be talking about the amazing Ion Skincare, which is a new company you're CEO of. And so I want to talk about that, why you took on another CEO role, why this company, what the heck you were thinking with launching a product and this. But let's dial it back. You have Bachelor of Science in Consumer Merchandising and Retail Management. You are the publisher of Worth magazine originally. Yeah, I scoured your LinkedIn page. Back in the day. What did you imagine you'd be doing with a career that is now taking you into operations and technology and all sorts of stuff?
Kelly, I wish I could say I was that organized about the thought process. I was on one of your other water coolers with that terrific gal who was talking about how she was very strategic and methodical about how she set out her career path. I fell in love with retail as a kid. And so I found the only liberal arts college at the time that had a retail concentration within the business department. And off I went. And my goal was to go into retail, which I did, starting at Saks Fifth Avenue. Tremendous boot camp training. I worked for a woman whose nickname was Banshee. And it was a very different time in retail in regard to how you were treated as an employee. And life had some funny changes. My mother died very suddenly when I was 24. And I said, life is too short. I've learned so much, but this is not where I want to be. And I was very fortunate that I was able to parlay my retail experience into a retail promotion program at House Beautiful magazine. And it opened up a whole new life and chapter for me. So exciting in terms of understanding retailers and be able to provide value to them in terms of this audience that House Beautiful had devoted, women in particular, that really wanted to be connected to our advertisers, whether that was furniture or it was home accessories, architecture, and just really bring all of that alive through my nascent experience in retail. But that took me down the path of marketing and sales, and ultimately to be a publisher of a number of different magazines, including Worth. And I seemed to have this launch fever. And people always said to me, here I was corporate. I was Saks Fifth Avenue. I was Hearst. I was American Express launching departures. Then I went back to Hearst. So I had this wonderful foundational experience from corporate land. But there was entrepreneurial blood flowing through me from the time I was a kid. I was always told, you can sell ice to Eskimos. And so by launching within the corporate structure, this was long before we had incubators or accelerators within a corporate. I was very fortunate that we were testing that type of thing. So at Hearst, we created a task force. And I literally would borrow some of the best and brightest from Town and Country and Harper's Bazaar and Good Housekeeping. And they were my adjunct team while we had a bare bones, skeletal 2 executives launching a new magazine. And it gave a tremendous opportunity to, really pursue that entrepreneurial dream that I had within the confines of a lot of structure and support. But I've always had sort of that hybrid nature. And after launching and establishing Worth as part of Fidelity, we sold it to a private equity firm. And the product really suffered. I learned quite a bit about the world of M&A inadvertently and naively because we were going through a sale process. Fidelity was very, very supportive. They didn't really want to lose us, but they understood that long term there could be challenges being owned by one of the largest mutual funds, which was a core, endemic business for us. So they were incredibly supportive, and we were acquired by a private equity firm. And I really didn't know much about private equity then, but suddenly I had an owner that was private equity. So I went through what they fondly refer to in financial land as a bake-off in terms of the bankers that were going to represent us. Then we went through this auction process, which was very public. And it was supposed to be very private and confidential, yet I would hear from my friends that, we saw your books. And then I heard from clients, so-and-so told us about your books. And it was what's now referred to as fake news. But as you're aware, the media industry is very chatty. They really like to talk a lot. So suddenly I've been exposed to and learned a lot about M&A and private equity, and it made me very curious to learn more. And this was the start of this kind of craziness that I embarked upon, because I loved my years in the magazine world, but I was feeling a little bit like I had kind of done everything that I wanted to do. I didn't want to live on planes anymore launching new publications, because I finally got married, and I wanted to really push my learning curve. So that was the tip of the spear that brought me to becoming an operating partner, as we're referred to, with a merchant bank, which is basically an investment banking structure that works very closely with private equity firms to acquire businesses, and then to work on the building of that business, and they co-invest and look for the opportunity to exit with a return. So as an operating partner, really, I always considered myself just a working stiff, an executive, but it was the complementary side to the financial prowess of the bankers and the private equity folks, and having sort of that grit under the fingernails, if you will, of understanding the real nuance of the business, which can make a huge difference. So that led me to this major change, which was just inadvertent, quite frankly. And I spent a number of years really doing business development with the bankers and chasing down an awful lot of businesses that we were either too disciplined in the go-go days, and we weren't bidding high enough for some of these businesses that oftentimes were somewhat distressed. And then we had the bleak years after the implosion of the economy, where we couldn't seem to close an acquisition before a company went into bankruptcy. So again, huge learning curve. And in the process, I recognized that with so many of these businesses we were trying to acquire that were later stage established businesses, they hadn't yet adopted the recognition that technology was critical to the future of their business. As I would sit in these meetings with all the private equity guys and talk about technology, I was that proverbial redheaded stepchild that they pat on the head and say, "Oh, you mean we need a new website, dear?" And I'd be talking about retail and how they needed technology to innovate their business, and so it pushed me into another learning curve. So while I was doing this later stage work, I was doing a lot of consulting and advising to very early stage businesses, so that I was learning from the inside. I didn't feel that white papers or trade papers or anything that people were learning through the written word was as effective or important as really learning from the guts on the inside. Yeah. And it really helped me to see in terms of when some businesses were potentially too far ahead of the curve and they weren't able to make it because the confluence of what was going on with our world, with the economy, with business, with consumers. It just, sometimes there were really bright people with an exceptional idea that it just was a little bit early. So
you'd know that from your own, I'm going to say sort of operational experience, but also sitting there literally like in the boardroom with decision makers going, yeah, there's
Right.
This is the right idea, but right at the wrong time. There's
Yeah.
a few people I want to say hello to. So I see some familiar faces in the chat here, which I get to see. So Kathleen, good to see you again out there in Fresno. And I love this. Masoom, thank you for joining us. And I know, I saw this earlier, hey, Pat Lewis, always good to see you, my friend Pat. And I know you're over on the west side of Manhattan, and you know, we love you. You've come that distance as well to join us. This is just always so fun when people join us and let us know that they're here. You know, not that you and I couldn't just continue on this amazing conversation. And I know one of the I want to say early stage kind of access to early stage companies. You were a mentor with Entrepreneurs Roundtables, and love them and everything that they do. You know, some of this, you know, thinking about your career and focusing on, you know, you realized, you know, so that awareness of where you had a really big interest in terms of, or ability in terms of launching products, your kind of curiosity. I'm really interested, you know, kind of your thoughts on, you know, the importance of getting that operational kind of experience, because it seems to me that leads to a lot of doors, and thinking particularly about a lot of women that like the benefits of getting operation and P&L experience.
Yeah, it's huge. There's no denying that. And what's so interesting is I found up until recent years, call that the last 3 to 5 years, so many women were intimidated by that, which is shocking. Extremely bright women, very accomplished. Even when I first went over to Tri-Artisan Capital, which is the merchant bank where I was an operating partner, I was the only woman, no surprise. And I was trying to encourage some of my senior female friends and colleagues in the industry to think about joining, particularly those that were, you know, perhaps a little bit older than I was and were thinking of quote unquote retiring, but still wanted to be active and engaged. And it's really a very, very powerful way to leverage their experience and to stay engaged. And the idea that we were attached to private equity and a lot of that was financial modeling, et cetera, seemed to be very intimidating to them. And some of these women were running P&Ls in their companies. So I think it's there's been a lot of exposure and conversation around what all of this means. You know, really, as I said before, what's an operating partner? You know,
what is an operating partner?
It's the world of private equity, and now even within some of venture capital is starting to do this. They are experienced, typically C-level executives or, you know, presidents of divisions that have overseen that P&L. So in the case of publishing, it wasn't until I went to Prime Media that I actually had real P&L responsibility. You had responsibility at Hearst for your particular ad sales marketing adjunct type of operating budget, but you weren't controlling the entire P&L. Certainly editorial wasn't typically under the purview of a publisher or now chief revenue officer presidents. And so, but at Prime Media, because we are a private equity owned company, KKR owned Prime Media for a number of years, we had P&L responsibility. And it really allows you to understand much more about the full scope of the business. So I think it really is critical. You know, certainly I always had a CFO or a senior finance director that was running all of those financial models, was, you know, doing the grit, if you will, of the day-to-day finance. And I still do. And it's critical. I always say accounting was my least favorite subject when I was a business studies major. But I think it's very important if it's something that intrigues you, you're intellectually curious about, if you're looking constantly ahead to a 360-degree approach to life and other things you might want to do. For some people, it's just not of interest. I mean, there's some of the best marketers in the business that they just love marketing, and marketing is what they want to do. I would say that the more exposure to the operating scope is beneficial to even the best of chief marketing officers, because now, of course, with the sudden explosion finally of people accepting and understanding how to utilize technology for success and growth and relevance, CMOs have somewhat become a CTO because, of course, MarTech is so important in this day and age. And suddenly a chief marketing officer has to be up to speed on what's the best software, what's the best platform, what's the best whatever technology they need to be the best marketer in their space. So I think it's invaluable. Sorry, long answer to a short question.
No, I love it. I love it. Love it. Have to, a few other people to say hi to. Hey, Lyndon, I know Lyndon is up in Toronto, and I know your comments on marketing have caused Lyndon to jump in. And then who did I see up here? Fiona in Ireland. And thank you. I think it's a very interesting listen too. So glad you believe so as well. So, all right, one more question before we get into talking about all of this, because hey, other than networking and talking to people about careers, there's nothing I love more than skincare. But you are a business with purpose champion.
Yes.
When did that happen, and what is a business with purpose in your mind?
The business with purpose, I think, has become a more recent vernacular in our society. I have always been, I guess, what would be called cause-related since I was a kid. It's my DNA. I've been very fortunate through my career that I've had an opportunity to join my passion with my profession a number of times. I think back to when we launched Countryside Magazine, which was way ahead of the curve. The idea that people could telecommute and leave urban, suburban areas for life in the countryside. Oh, yes. And
you were radical.
We were radical. And we launched with a partnership with Don Henley as a mini fundraiser for Walden Woods, Walden Pond, because Henry David Thoreau was very meaningful to Don Henley in his life. And Walden Woods was in jeopardy at that time. And so we were constantly, and I wove a bunch of other programs together with the Central Park Conservancy. And the idea was that a media property has an opportunity to have a megaphone to the people that trust them, believe in them, and are looking for that curation from the editors. And there are so many, I think, so many issues and so many things going on in our world that businesses have an opportunity to educate, inform, and support in an appropriate fashion. So it's just always been part of me, and I've been thrilled to see in the last several years, first driven by millennials, but now driven by every generation, that there's this idea that businesses can take a leadership position and they can do well by doing good. And for a number of years, when I was back at Worth, we did a lot of work at the early stage with what are now called social impact funds. And unfortunately, there were only a handful, and they weren't terribly successful at that time. So there was always this idea that, we just have to look at the share price. We just have to look at the return for the investors. And the idea of investing in businesses that were tackling big global issues kind of fell by the wayside for quite a while. And the venture community has driven that back. And there's some outstanding successes, whether that is with the whole using drones to deliver medical supplies in very remote and sometimes third world countries, how that's impacting our country as well as the world. Can be renewable energy, any of these different types of big global issues. I think it's really exciting to see the financial success of what's being done and this whole idea of doing well by doing good. And right now I'm very involved with the Gun Safety Alliance, which we're all volunteers. We have day jobs, but we're very concerned about the public health crisis that is occurring with gun death, which has become an epidemic, violence and death. As our world is reopening after COVID, it's heartbreaking to see the acceleration of mass shootings on a daily basis. And again, as business leaders, particularly from the marketing, media, and technology industries, we felt that there was opportunity to leverage our skill set and our network to help people better understand and to move away from the word control. That's where it becomes a third rail issue, as everybody speaks to. We're talking about kids feeling safe in somebody else's house. We're talking about being able to go out, whether it's to the mall, to a restaurant, to the gym, to a place of religious service, to a movie theater, to a college campus, and not be afraid, because randomly so many people are being killed. And so we're reaching out to the business community right now because, in particular, the COVID epidemic, employees are very concerned about their workplace. They're scared to go to work because of these mass shootings, whether that's a raged customer that comes in, or it's a disgruntled employee that comes back with revenge. But there has to be a better balance of the responsibility with ownership and the community protection of safety with ownership of firearms. And so that's where, again, I think that businesses can take a leadership position because they care about their employees, they care about their community. They can demonstrate effectively that support of communication.
Wow, amazing, amazing. Thank you, and thank you for sharing all of that and what your cause is. I'm right with you on all of this. All right, we're just kind of a big old bit of New York City siren in the background as we move on to our next topic. What? Okay, tell me, how did this new company with a new product to launch, how did this get you back into the C-suite? What was it about Ion Skincare and what they're doing, the challenge of launching a new product? Maybe it was, your launch gene was like, hey, you haven't scratched me in a while. Hey, I'm atrophying. You want to launch something? But what was it that you said, yeah, I'm ready to get back in the C-suite?
Yeah, I'm nuts, number one, clearly masochistic and nuts. But I've been looking for this opportunity for 15 years as I was doing this whole hybrid operating partner, jump in and take, I was doing the gig on demand thing long before it was called that. So a lot of interim C-suite type of consulting projects that were, typically 6 to 18 months. But I was looking for this right fit that got me so excited and passionate about the product, the people, and the market opportunity. And I was very fortunate that my good friend Arnie Zimmerman, who had been a senior executive at Revlon, L'Oreal, a number of the biggest players in the business, and his wife Jean, Jean Haynes Zimmerman, as we all knew her, built the Chanel beauty business. And they met Dr. C and Dr. C Wang, and they introduced me to him. And I have to say, the first time I met him and he talked to me about this whole idea of iron overload and the negative medical or health impact of too much iron in the body, blew me away. I thought I was pretty well versed on wellness, having been on the board of SpaFinder Wellness and for almost 12 years, and actually stepped in to run the company for about a year and a half. So I was sort of flat-footed, but it was fascinating that the doctor is one of the world's leading experts on this whole idea of iron overload. And for 30 years, he studied things like, started with black lung disease and understanding what bioavailable iron was in different coal mines in different parts of our world and country. And it led him to study very critical issues like heart disease and Alzheimer's and osteoporosis and breast cancer. And the breast cancer research really led him into women's health. And the women's health paper that was released by the NIH that was then retracted in terms of the whole idea of estrogen and estrogen's impact on women and aging and menopause really got him thinking and passionate about making a huge difference by creating some solutions that could remove excess iron from the body and to negate some of these effects. And so what he found from research that he did, specifically studying what happens to women when they go through menopause and impacts the skin, is what led to the development of our patented technology. And he found that because there are only 2 ways to excrete excess iron, and I should say, iron is one of the most important essential metals in our body. But again, too much of a good thing can be detrimental. So if you think about the fact that when women go through menopause and postmenopause, they lose one of the key ways to excrete excess iron, which is through menstruation. And the only way then is through skin excretion. So literally, the buildup in iron in the skin when a woman goes through menopause can be as high as 42% more. And what causes skin aging and photoaging is the interaction of UV and the pollutants and blue light that we're sitting in front of with iron. So that iron in the skin and the UV creates havoc. And that's what creates free radicals. That's what retinols and all of these antioxidants try to battle every day. But the reality is, almost every minute of the day, these free radicals are being created. So he developed patented technology to go one step earlier, remove the iron from the skin, prevents the free radical formation that those things are trying to fight. Then the skin has a chance to repair and rebuild. So this is literally, it is monumental. There's never been a solution to a problem that has been studied and documented for over 125 years. And now all of a sudden there's a solution. That's what got me so excited. I love the beauty business. I've always loved the beauty business. This is so differentiated, and selfishly, it's kind of helpful for me dealing with this and my friends.
No. I'm sort of saying, I'm glad I got this deluxe sample, but is there a vat of it I can just like stick my body in? Because that's what I'd really like. I'd like to be like immersing myself,
We have a pipeline. We actually have a product development meeting offsite tomorrow that we're talking about our product pipeline. But, you asked, how do we launch this? And like, why did we launch this in the middle of a pandemic? The good news was that, people were spending even more time on what was fondly referred to now as self-care. Self-care is a lot of this skincare and meditation and wellness, all these things I, again, had been so involved with at Spotfinder Wellness for over a decade. And skincare was becoming so important. Stress or blue light, everything that the pandemic was imposing on all of us. And that enabled us to do a couple of things. So you mentioned this deluxe sample. We decided to put our money where our mouth was and to put a very generous sample into the hands of close to 5,000 people in advance of launching to the public. And the reason was our clinical trials were so overwhelmingly successful. We thought the earlier we can get this into the hands of folks like you to experience this product, the better data points we would have very early on. We're very data driven, and the more conversions we would see early on. So we have that deluxe sample, and sure enough, it is working. And we're finding that people are just over the moon in love with this product. So Ion Skincare is the biggest, newest thing, as Joe Gubernick, who's one of our advisors, says, it's the biggest thing he's seen since retinol, and it's bigger.
Wow. That is awesome. And I love the story that you were looking for something like this, know, and I know that sort of that gig drop in, be the CEO or the CRO,
right.
Those kind of things. You right the ship and then, you go off and do, but where's the one where you can really sink your teeth back into it and take something forward? And it just sort of feels to me in some ways, it's like in some ways coming around full circle from, where we started this conversation and where your career started, back at Saks, back in the retail environment. Pull so much of your life together. I know I was so fortunate that you contacted me when you became the CEO, and you're like, "Hey, Kelly, you want to try?" And of course, I was like, "Bring it on, sister." I'm such a skincare fanatic, and I know a number of my friends have tried it. Thank you very much. Got it to them. And I see a few people like Nancy. Don't you worry, Nancy. I'm going to say, and joking for my friend Jamie here. Yes, it's counteract the hot flash. Oh my God, the hot flash is acupuncture. That's all I can say.
Oh, wait, I've got stuff there too. Two companies that are putting out great consumer product for a lot of the, as I call them, the indignities of aging. Is Womanness. Check out, they have a product for hot flashes, as does Kindra, Kindra.
Awesome.
Terrific companies, great people, and really good products.
Yeah, awesome. It's awesome. And I would say acupuncture worked for me.
Good for you. Yeah.
So there we go. Try everything. I used Phyto
Phyto, Phyto, these little homeopathic pills that you would crunch under your tongue while you were sitting in some big fancy meeting with all the financial guys in their lovely suits and ties, and you're just sweating buckets. It worked.
Oh my God. I mean, we could have a whole conversation on
Yes.
the things that need to be in a menopause kit.
Yes.
From I would say from the Uniglow Aerism T-shirts to
Right. Well, and isn't it great we can talk about it now? I'm sitting here thinking, guys, I hope you weren't cringing, because up until about 2 years ago, number one, you didn't use the word menstruation in public. And, you know, you didn't talk about menopause. And the poor guys, you had to deal with women going through the crazies of some of what happens when you go through the mood swings and all of that. And now we get to talk about it so that people, yeah, it's great. It's so refreshing and freeing.
Well, it's not like something you decided to do. It's just like, it kind of happens. So could, you know, and the things, it's sort of the things they tell you to look out for, and then they don't tell you all the other stuff that happens.
Right. You know, and it's one thing we're really excited. We, you know, I kind of say we moved into our house, meaning our website, which is our storefront, with our old furniture and fabrics. And we are in the process right now of doing some renovations and redecorating. And we're very excited to launch later this month, because I think what you'll find is a lot of information about the empowerment. You know, instead of just dealing with, oh, this is happening, it's really the empowerment. And part of it is going back to that whole idea that, you know, we can't control our chronological age. We want that to keep happening, but we can control our biological age. And it's funny, you know, there used to be that company years ago called Real Age, and it was speaking to exactly this. And we would reflect upon a lot of the fundamentals of that biological aging with Spa Finder Wellness. How could we be, as you know, the best in terms of our health and wellness? And that's part of what we want to share with people, is the fact that this is an empowering time. Take control back. And so if we can help you on the topical side right now with our first products, you'll have the healthiest skin you can. And there's some wonderful visual benefits that come with it as well. So I'd love to offer anybody who's on here the chance for this deluxe sample as well, if you'd like. And
tell us, so I know that there was where can we get it? No, you can't get it at Macy's. Here's how you're going to get it. No. Here, sorry, Vivian, everyone, you know, you can't do that. Pay attention. Nancy, everybody, pay attention.
So,
all right,
right now, as we get our sea legs, as I say, we are only available on our website, direct to consumer. It is Ion Skincare, IONSKINCARE.com. If you put in the browser Ion Skincare Deluxe Sample, it will bring you to a private page.
Is that backslash deluxe?
You don't even have to do that. There's been so much chat about it on our little social channels that it's popping up in search, which is great. But you need a VIP code to cancel out the $50 value, which we're discovering is more than a $50 value. It's supposed to be a 2-week supply, which is why we call it deluxe. But some people are getting 3 to 4 weeks, which, if you consider that our full product is $125, we just gave you a big sample. But we want people to really experience it. Right. So if you get to that private page, use this code. Use Kelly100.
AEL, any caps or just all lowercase?
It's not case sensitive. If for some reason, because we've had some flukes with Shopify, but if for some reason it's case sensitive, do all caps.
Okay, so Kelly100. I'm just going to put that in.
Yep, Kelly100.
And the number 100.
Yes, yep, numeral 100.
Okay,
and then all you have to do.
There we go.
And please fill in your email address so that we can send you confirmations when it's shipping. But also, we have a lot of information. I just ran a quick survey with about, I don't know, I guess it was about 65 of my friends and family that had tried the product. And one question I asked was, would you like more information about the whole impact of too much iron and women in menopause? And 86% said yes. Yeah. So there's a lot that we'll be sharing, and I encourage you to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We are just, the more of you that follow us, the more we can get this information out. And the doctor's really passionate about allowing as many people to have the healthiest skin possible. So Though $125 is not inexpensive, it is not a, it's not a mass price product. We are at the low end of prestige. We should be at the pricing over $300 or over $400 of some of the top science-backed, doctor-founded products out there. But we deliberately tried to make it as accessible as possible right off the blocks. So really encourage you to follow us.
And isn't that also to the benefit of having this direct to consumer, where all of a sudden you're like, oh, right, there isn't the pricing that you have to have if you're going to have a, location in a retail establishment, and you want, I'm going to say the right shelf space and all the rest of it.
Yes. Yeah. But honestly, my plan, which is on target, I'm excited to say, I can't give you details yet, but the plan was to have a sort of a launch. I would call it a digital pop-up with a retail partner, fourth quarter of this year.
Awesome.
And then we'll be in bricks and mortar sometime in 2023, more than likely. So again, we don't want to get out ahead of ourselves and be too fragmented. But we will be available this fall with a major specialty store that is very, very excited about supporting us. And we're living with our price with the retail structure. Again, it's important, and it's baked into our plan. So the one thing I'd love to share now, because we don't have this up on our website yet, but again, number one, we want as much feedback as possible. Overwhelmingly, people have a positive experience. But one thing, as friends have been really good about keeping me apprised, we are finding that layering our product with retinol could create some dryness or irritation for outliers. Now, I've never been able to use retinol products because I'm such dry, sensitive skin. It just chews it apart. But we would suggest testing and probably not using it with retinols. You don't need a retinol product. As I explained before, we're preventing what they're trying to fight. But we understand a lot of people have been using retinols for 20, 30 years. And unfortunately, we can't second guess in those thousands of products what their levels are. All of our ingredients are pH balanced. We're finding that mix with some retinols and even residual on the skin from retinol can create some irritation. So that's one thing we're putting into our guidance. The other is some people use a high concentrate vitamin C serum. And again, we have C as one of our hero products, ingredients. And so you don't need additional C. And again, my dry, sensitive skin.
So it's like almost like take everything else you're using and just put it aside.
Well, no, if we definitely encourage SPF over our
yes. I'm thinking like if you're using these other kind of other things that may be trying to fight the free radicals, maybe put those other serums and things aside, but
and test it
and just kind of use this so you don't end up with
We do say if you use a hydrating serum, use that underneath our product, sort of as your first layer priming type of thing. It's just that, and some people are fine with the C. It's just too much vitamin C in general can be very drying, and it can make you break out at the same time as drying, which is craziness. And again, I've experienced that with one of my favorite top of the line brands. And it's just, it's just not fun.
Okay, layer that on with I want to say the stress of menopause, the stress of 24/7,
exactly.
Work from home, behind oh my Lord, you'd be wondering what's causing the breakout. Is it the cream, the combination?
Right. So that's why I'm taking advantage of explaining that to people now. And the one thing I'd say is now we're going back to wearing makeup again, although I forgot this morning, sorry. People keep saying, it's so rich, but it absorbs well, and it goes on so beautifully underneath makeup.
Yes.
So we need to start working with some makeup artists so they understand that as well.
Yeah, I can attest to that. This has been an absolute joy, and I'm going to twist your arm now on camera to come back and let me know after the launch how all of that goes and what the latest and greatest is.
Thank you. We are live. You can buy full product now. We have the skin cream and the eye cream.
Well, I want to say the launch of your new website.
Yes.
So I want to talk about all of that, and love this that you're going to be in bricks and mortar, and People be able to stay tuned on that combination of hybrid, because, you and I can both laugh. Everyone who were, sort of predicting the death of in-store retail. How much do we miss and love that, and going back into stores. So lots more to talk about, and just generally catching up today was just beyond awesome. So thank you. And someone, Fiona, there we go, has ordered. Thank you, Missy. Yes.
Yay, thank you.
Be sure to let Fiona. Let Missy know. Let Ion Skitzer know. Follow them on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Let them know what you think.
Soon to be Pinterest.
Soon to be Pinterest. Love Pinterest, all that kind of stuff. And this has been amazing. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. There'll be more of these conversations soon. Fabulous author Helen Ellis, best-selling, New York Times best-selling author of American Housewife, Southern Lady Coach. She's got a new book of essays coming out, and I'll be talking to her in July, the day after her new book comes out. So join me for that, but keep an eye on my Twitter and YouTube and LinkedIn, because when these conversations are happening, that's where I'll post the information. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you again soon. And thank you, Missy.
Oh, Kelly, thank you. And thanks to everybody out there for joining us today. Honored to be here.